Good afternoon, everybody. This is Paul Masters, Republican candidate for representative in Pennsylvania's 6th District. Today I'm going to talk to you about my views on energy policy and climate change and where I think we need to go from here. Now, just to clear the air on climate change, because I'm sure a lot of people are interested in how I feel about that, I separate into two separate things. So on the issue of climate change itself, i.e. the notion that humans, through industrial activity and associated pollutions and greenhouse gas emissions, affect the environment in some meaningful way, I think that's pretty obviously true, and that's backed up, well evidenced by ample amounts of historical observation concerning the effect that these gases have in the atmosphere in relevant quantities. Now, when we get to the other side of climate change, which is predictive modeling and extrapolations out into the future, that's where I get a lot more skeptical. And I agree with a lot of people's, I think, pretty well-founded skepticism that a lot of these climate change models are probably not making the best use of data and are probably not super accurate in a lot of cases. And I think that's well evidenced since we find ourselves living in the time frame described by a lot of models and not living in the world that they've predicted. That being said, I think the best, from a game theory perspective, the best thing for a society to do or for a government to do is operate under the assumption that some of these bad things might be true and plan for them. So that's my views on climate change, but it almost doesn't matter for the next thing that I'm going to say, because whether or not your motivations for energy policy are reducing greenhouse gas emissions to prevent climate change or to alter humanity's effect on the climate, or whether you simply want to plan for an eventuality of when we run out of fossil fuels, or you just don't like pollution in general and want to see cleaner environments, or you believe in energy security and that most energy production should not be gained from, we should try to limit the amount of energy sources we seek from foreign countries, some that might be hostile. What I'm about to say, what the energy policy that I'm about to propose should about make sense. I think there's really only one way to achieve these things, given modern technology, and that's through a revamping of nuclear power. Now, renewable energies are great. I mean, I think there's hardly anybody out there who's against things like solar power and things like wind power. And I think the mistake that people make is vastly overestimating the amount to which those technologies at present time can meaningfully contribute to replacing the fossil fuel economy. Fact is, the numbers don't add up and it simply can't do it. If we want to do that now, or in any sort of reasonable time frame, the only way we can do that is by using the one source of energy that can provide electricity for an industrial world without producing any of the associated pollutions, and that's nuclear power. Frankly, we've had the answer since the 1950s, and we've just been slow to adopt it. Now, this is pretty evident. If you take a look at carbon emissions and pollution emissions per capita, if you take a look at ours, and you take a look at, let's say, take for example France, which is the best example. France right now produces about 1/3 of the carbon emissions per capita that we do. And that is almost entirely because they generate most of their electricity, about 75%, from nuclear energy sources. Now, that's not to say that there's not an associated risk with nuclear power. However, I'm just willing to bite the bullet and say that I think that risk is minimal, small, and well worth all of the benefits we gain, which is an energy infrastructure that doesn't pollute very much. So that's what I'm going to support as a representative in Congress. I'm going to look to revamp the nuclear industry by decreasing regulations. I want to decrease the regulations for the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, to license conservative new designs, i.e. designs that are largely based on proven technology that we've been using for quite a while, and get more plants up and running. And that way, in the short to medium term, we can start to actually replace our fossil fuel generation with something that doesn't pollute. And I think that's something that everybody should be able to get behind.